Forms. So this is probably the coolest portion that I wanted to show on here, on really the big change on how we've approached our operations in the last year or so. We've really pushed this as to get the superintendents to quit filling out, carrying around clipboards, quit carrying around paper copies of stuff that gets rained on or lost. We haven't had any OSHA violations, but we've been threatened by them on just having certain superintendents who don't organize their paperwork well. It's actually a OSHA standard that there's a certain amount of organization that needs to happen on a job site. If your superintendent just puts everything into a big pile, that is not okay by OSHA. It needs to be organized to a certain amount. And this is how we organize our equipment. I think the organization of it, there is a time savings with the way that it's spelled out that I'll show, but the organization of it is really big for us. So the calendar. So this lets you know what paperwork has been filled out on your project for everything that we've done. And all of our paperwork is now in ProNovos. Now, when I say paperwork, I mean our inspections. So, false work inspections, obviously a big one, pre-strip checklist, strip authorizations with our clients, even down to safety, our injury illness, our near misses, corrective action notices, everything that we've done, we've put into the system. You can see any piece of paperwork that's been filled out shows up here in the calendar view. So the checkbox is a daily report, means it's been filled out for the day. If it's got a circle around it, it means it's been emailed. So this one hasn't been emailed. So if I needed to follow up with the client, I can see that Fridays wasn't sent out. And then it's got the report itself. And I think we'll open up a job site inspection report here. So if I want to look at a report, I can do it in two ways. I can click into here and just look at the list of job site inspections, for example, safety. So you can just get a list of the ones that have been filled out. I don't use the list as much. I seem to live here because I'm always looking at a particular day on what happened. So we'll look at the job site inspection here for this particular one. And you can see the content that's on here. So we have 4 tabs, as you would call them: general safety, fall protection, ladders, and other items that need to be inspected. And then we kind of use this radio dial on here. This form, I'll say, is locked, so I can't modify anything on here. There's a process when the superintendent fills out a form and finalizes it. Once it's finalized, it's kind of locked, which is why everything is gray. But these are the items that we ask our superintendents or whoever the responsible personnel on the job site to review. So this is everything here is responsive on the iPad or on your phone. We push iPads just because you get a little bit more screen real estate, but everything here can be done. You sign it through here, you email it through here, it creates the PDF through here. Everything's on here and everything is custom. The reason why this is formatted the way it is, meaning that you have your checkboxes to the left here, your item in the middle, and your notes to the right-hand side, is because when we had it in Bluebeam or printed version, this was the same format. So what we were shooting for is if we're gonna switch, and it's always fun operationally to switch systems, if we're gonna switch and get people from stopping doing paperwork, so they've done for 20 years or so for some of our superintendents, we're gonna try to make it look exactly like we did in the forms. And you have that ability. You can really play with how things look on here and make sure that it is similar to what it was on the paper copy as it was. And in fact, let's see, yeah, you can see the PDF here. The old PDF that we had was very similar to this. And we created this form, and I'll show you the form builder, but we created this to make it look as much like we possibly could to the original form. They would just print this up and ultimately write this stuff out instead of typing it in.
I love that you hit on that, Michael, because that is something we're always big about at ProNovos. Is we don't want to come into your organization and tell you how to do things differently. We really want to take what's working well for you and adapt it to our system and just give you some additional tools to do it more efficiently and collect the data around that. Because I think we all know in construction, people tend to be a creature of habit, and if you do start introducing those new systems, the adoption rate really goes down. So I think it's great that you guys did this exactly like your old version.
Yeah, and if we create new forms, maybe we make them a little more, mobile friendly, let's say, because things do, as you're on a phone, it looks different than an iPad because everything kind of stacks appropriately to make sure that it's nice and organized as you go. But yeah, making sure that everyone knew what they were looking at. It wasn't a completely new format was a big deal for us, and it's worked out pretty well. The transition was fairly easy considering the concern that we had, and I headed it up for our company in all of the areas. And oh man, it was one I was not looking forward to. And we probably have, I don't know, 30 or 40 superintendents, and I got a lot of phone calls, of course. Why are we changing this and that? And you try to convince everyone, right? Hey, this is for the better good. It turned out pretty good. After they jumped in there and they realized they don't have to organize their paperwork anymore. That was a big selling point, and it went pretty well all in all. So. But this is a version of, this is what gets sent to the client. So if this is something that you do need to send to the client because they're looking for it, you don't have to, obviously. You got to hit the email button. You pre-register all of the who's on the job, who your point of contacts are for turning these things in, so that when you do email it, everything pre-populates, right? You just hit email, you get a chance to change some notes on the email itself, and then you can just send it. But this is what they receive. And the signature box, yeah, this is the signature on an iPad just using his finger. This is just what it looks like, and this also gets sent in so that it's appropriately signed and verified by whoever the inspector is. Happened to be the superintendent on this project with the same individual. So Andre ended up doing it. Okay, so I will jump. If this is the filling out the form, let's take a look real quick about what it looks like to create one. So if I go back to the main navigation and go to the admin spot, there's a form builders portion in the admin. And I'm going to use one that's not used very often for this, so I don't screw up what's going on in our company too bad. I'm going to just do this forklift inspection. So as you click in, if you created a new one, it would be very similar to this. But ultimately, there's some information that you see about it. If the form has been revised, obviously things change over time and it keeps track of the changes. Information about, so what the template name is, or the name of the form, if you put an ID to it, the category inspection, or if it's safety, or if it's just field paperwork. The inspection item that's on here, and then the things that we inspect that's associated with what this particular form is. So this is a forklift inspection. This is every time that you're going to send a forklift to a project that typically comes from our yard. The yard manager needs to take a look and just run through these items. Don't send a broken forklift to the job site. Go through here. Did you complete this? Take any pictures? Is there, go take a look at does it start, turn it on, right? All that good stuff. Make sure that it's good. So I'm going to go into the edit portion of this form. When you create a form, or when you're editing a form, there's this header information that you look at. So you create the template name, the ID, again, the category. You can have certain things show up on an instance of the form. So we looked at an instance of the form earlier. If you're a superintendent, say, hey, I want to create a new forklift inspection. It populates an empty form for you to fill out. You can have the project name populate and auto-populate every time. The project number, header information. So if you want to put a description in that says, hey, you need to do this on this form, and just some quick information about the form, you can do that. You can do that on here, and it populates every time for your user to see, or it shows up on the PDF when you send it out. So I'm going to jump to the next spot. And for this, actually, I'm going to jump in here. I'm going to remove this and then recreate it. So this area to the right is an area where you drag and drop all your information. And this area to the left are the tools that are available to create your form. So this is truly customizable as far as what you want to see and how you want to see it. So there's kind of two aspects of it. I'll try to keep it simple and stay out of the weeds. So I'll ignore the inspection tool for now, but you create an area. So you can create columns, you can create a table, you can create tabs, like the other form had tabs earlier where you're showing different bits of information based on the tab that you've clicked on. But this is defining how you want to break up the information. you can drop different items on here, and the PDF will look different. We'll just do a well, which is just a one spot to drop information, I guess. And there's some information that you can create that's associated with the well. So the label. So if I wanted to say test well area, you can hide the label if you don't want to. If you want to put something on there, but you don't want it to show up. But for now, we'll save it. And you can see here, we've got a new area on the form. There's a way to make the text bold, and you can play with the different borders and stuff like that. I'm not going to do that for this example. I'll just kind of show you how it works. But notice that we have this new area here on here that we've created. And it says drag and drop the elements to build the template. So your form fields. So this is where the content comes from. So you can have labels, just blank labels. You can have numbers, text areas, check boxes, select fields like with drop downs, radio dials is what we looked at just a little bit ago. And then there's advanced fields, and these are kind of pre-formatted. So signature field, that's what we dropped on the bottom of our form. We make our superintendents obviously sign any inspection that they end up creating or doing. Date, time, phone number, email, all those things. We'll do something simple. We'll just do like a checkbox, and we'll populate it on here. And what populates over here is some information. You can change the padding, which is just the space around the box. You can make it kind of push to the left or push to the right or up or down. Again, let's do, create the label here and say inspection checkbox. You can play with the position. So if you want the label to show up on the left or the right-hand side, you can change the width. And there's some really cool things you can actually do with the data side and the validation side if you want to make sure that it's checked, and even some conditional formats based on this, but it's probably not worth getting into that. And I'll save this component. So now we have created this test area. We have the well, the inspection area that's beside it. I can always come back and I can edit it if I need to. But for this example, obviously we won't get into that. And then as you build it, you can take a look and see how it's going to show up on your form. And this is where you can really play with some of the labeling or some of the borders. For this one, this is the little area that we created right here. And it's got a border around it. We can make it bold. You can see the checkbox on here. If I wanted to make, for example, on this one, you can see that there's a label with a yes, no, and then a comments box next to it. So if this is a well, this is a column with two columns. I dropped one of them into over here, and I created the yes, no for it. And then I dropped another blank text box on here with no label, excuse me, that we write comments for. So that's what I mean. It really depends on how you want to build it, and you start playing around with it to make it look like you want it to look, because you obviously want to present it to the client or save it for your records at some point. Afterwards, that's it. You save it. You can then go back and look at the different forms that you have on here. You can create them and not publish them if it's something that you haven't filled and finished your form for, or if obviously if you've published it, you're ready to go. You can control the project access. So if you only want certain projects to see certain forms, you can control that on here and really only populate the projects and let those individuals see it, the projects who you want to, and go from there. This has been the bigger change for us, and it's nothing. I haven't seen this anywhere. I think there are companies out there where you can create forms for, but none. I don't think I've seen any that's in the construction industry specifically. And then more importantly, none that you can pull your data from. So the other side of this thing that's super cool, and we're just getting into it, I've only have a couple of reports built, is you can run a report on any one of these. So for example, if I wanted to say, how often does my forklift fail? I can run a report that says, that tracks that information. If I want to say, how often does a certain portion, a certain inspection item fail? I can take a look at that. For my extra work reports, for your deck reinforcement inspection, if there's anything on here, you can run a report to take a look at any metric that you can think of that's on any report. It's 100% reportable, which is super cool. It's where we haven't seen it is because I can create my own inspection item and then report off of it. I haven't seen a spot that allows you to do something like that. And it really gives me insight into everything that's going on to the job site. Obviously, from a safety standpoint, safety reporting, that's kind of your low-hanging fruit on here, right? You can run, all your injuries, your near misses, root causes. You can run reports on all those to see, even like where you were struck on your body or where the injury was on the body. So you can really run all the different aspects of all the different reports. And again, it's not a canned report. The report is modified specific to your company so that you can create and show the things that you want to track and then report off of them, or for us, what we want to track. So this is cool.
Touch on that.
I'm excited about that.
Yeah, let me touch on that real quick, Michael. If you're looking through this here and say, man, that looks really cool, but building our own forms seems like a daunting task to take on. At ProNovos, we do have a thorough customer support team that could kind of help you navigate that, help you build some of those forms that you use most frequently to kind of get that process started and put together a plan to kind of make that transition from being paper-based to fully digital.